All right, where was you just heard the caller, and we've seen your text. Where were you emotionally on Sunday?
I felt on Sunday like I felt with the Washington game that something bad was going to happen at the end of the game, which is why I did not go to the Washington game, even though I lived there. And I left Chicago and flew out to keep myself away from Soldier Field because I thought the same thing was going to happen with that, and it did. And when you just look, I've been doing this for a long time, and I know when teams are demoralized and when a situation is such that the spirit has left the building. And I've been in a lot of locker rooms over 45 years and a lot of headquarters, a lot of team practice facilities. And that's where the Bears are right now, and they don't have anybody to rally them. This isn't like a veteran team where you've got, going back 100 years, even teams that weren't even as good, a Butkus or a Ditka or a Singletary or a Peyton. You don't have that kind of player, first of all, because they're just assembled. And then you don't have a head coach that even understands that. And that's the short of it. The short of it is there's probably a lot of stuff that he does well technically and strategically and schematically, and none of that matters. Because he can't lead people. He can't lead men. And that's what you have to do as a head coach first. You can go out and get, there are plenty of coaches out there. Look no further than Detroit. And, it's funny, I know coaches who have over time said, I'm going to get people to do that. And they do that and they step out of it. They leave certain parts of the detailed work alone because they're overseeing it. Now, not everybody's a CEO. There are some head coaches who are more hands-on. But Eberflus, we've seen enough now. We've seen enough. We know that he doesn't get it, and then he doubles down publicly and says things that makes he doesn't get it. And it's too bad. It's too bad.
It is. I've gotten to the point. Maybe this, this isn't giving in, but my energy and my focus has shifted, Mike. And I don't know that I'd ever would have said that, having had the great pleasure and honor and privilege of playing in this great rivalry between the Bears and the Packers. But I was less concerned with the ultimate outcome of that game and more concerned with the play of the young quarterback because his development is significantly more important than them winning 6, 7, or 8 games this year, in my world.
Tommy, there is no arguing with what you just said, none. And you conveyed that in real time, so I know this is not something that took you days to talk about. You said that in text. We were texting back and forth live Sunday. I hear you. And by the way, I'm not about to disagree with that because ultimately that was one of the things. I kept saying I want to see improvement.
Yeah.
Well, that starts with the quarterback, and it meant the whole team, but it starts with the quarterback. So when we didn't see that, and they didn't see it either, which is why they fired the offensive coordinator, which had to be done. And now we don't see it with the head coach. And the Bears organization, the Hollis McCaskey family has a humanity about it, which I like. Now, a lot of people won't like that. And they'll say, well, get rid of him now so you can move on. No, you're not going to do anything. This is not about the playoffs. It's not about that because they have no whiff of that. They just came through the easy part of their schedule and lost 4 in a row. Through the easy part. This is the part where they could have won 4 in a row. Mm-hmm. And, the Washington game, you thought them as even teams when the season started, and they were even, and the Bears had really won that game. They won this Packers game at home, really, if the head coach decides to get 15 more yards to a kicker who just kicked in the first quarter of the game a line drive that basically could have been blocked by Spud Webb if you allow that kicker to get close enough to have some trajectory, but the head coach and the special teams coach don't see that. You can see it at home. I'm sitting there at home. Matthew says to me, Matthew loves Cairo Santa. He's like, Dad, I could block that kick at 6'2". I'm like, yeah, you could. That was the 53-yarder that was good. So the Packers didn't need like a film expert. You just had to have eyes and not be Ray Charles. And the Bears coaches couldn't see that, apparently. And so we're not going to get the 15 more yards or 8 more yards that'll allow that kick to have a different trajectory and win this game. When you don't have those things, then that person has to go. So he's got to go. But I'm not bloodthirsty. I think that there's a certain humanity that exists that serves a franchise well in a million other ways, civically, that people aren't going to look at when they're just calling in, screaming because the team lost. But, yeah, I'm looking at it and I know they're going to lose. Look, I said to you guys, at first I said after the Washington game, I said this is a 6-11 team. And then last week I said 4-13. Where they're going to get the wins from? I know San Francisco's not as good as we thought, but that game's out there. And the 49ers could still be playing for a chance to win a division. It's a 4-13 team that better be looking at who the best offensive linemen are in the draft.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And they need a lot. They need 4 out of 5 new offensive linemen. Michael, yeah. I want to ask you this. If you had a conversation with Kevin Warren, who says, let's just say he would ask your opinion, and he would say, look, George has been running the show. He wants to win badly, but he knows he hasn't been able to do it. He doesn't know how to do it. It's not for a want. It just doesn't know how. And since he's been the CEO of the Bears, the chairman, the Bears have not won a playoff game. The Bears have hired, I believe there have been 5 coaches under George's reign. There have been 10 offensive coordinators, and there have been 18 starting quarterbacks to start a game. And it all equals into this cycle where they continue to look for a new general manager, new head coach. So on the verge of looking for a new head coach, if he would say to you, I'm still new here, you've been a lifelong Bears fan, what have we done wrong? Why haven't we been able to find that man as a head coach? What would you say?
Well, they haven't gone all in to do it. It's not just the head coach. They got this wrong with Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith did the thing that Eberflus can't do, which is lead men. And Lovie was a terrible offensive coach, so fix that. That's easier to fix. You can find coordinators at every street corner in America. I'm exaggerating. But you can't find leaders of men. Lovey did that. They got rid of him too early, and they didn't suffer ever since. So they didn't get Jim Harbaugh, the guy they should have gone on. Because Jim Harbaugh does all the stuff that Eberflus is incapable of doing. They didn't do it. Is it money stopping them? See, the president of a business doesn't fix those things. That is the general manager. You're not going to look what happens when Jerry Jones tries to do that. That doesn't work. This is not on Kevin Warren's plate.
But Ryan does report right to Kevin. Ryan Poles.
Okay, but then you could fire Ryan Poles. But the point is, I don't care who reports. This is not about reporting. And this is part of what the Bears don't get right. It's not about reporting. It's about who has the talent to get it done. It doesn't matter who Jim Harbaugh reports to. He's great at that thing. I don't care who he reports to. So Ryan Poles seems to have done some things that are really good. But there's some things left to go. It's Ryan Poles who has to identify the coach. Kevin Warren can help with that. That's not the that's not the president of operations of business. That's not that job. The talent, that has to be, look at the teams that win. When the 49ers won, it wasn't the president of operations. It's the GM. It's the coach.
I agree. But what I've always said, Michael, is there's a reason they haven't been good. And except
I just gave it to you,
right? But
you can not pay attention to it.
No, but those men in those power roles, whether it was Ted Phillips advising George, whether it's George, whether it's whoever, Michael McCaskey before that,
it's got to be the GM.
They don't hire the right guy, or they don't know when to hire the right guy. They may wait an extra year. So
maybe, but then Poles should have been camped out with George's permission in front of Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, of course.
But so that's what he's got to get right now. Can they? Who is that guy who can lead men now? And Poles has got. It's Poles. Poles is the football guy. He's your head of football operations, not business, not finding the land on which to build a stadium. The football business. That's his job. He's got to do that with the assistants of his owner and president.
Do you trust him after keeping Eberflus and after overseeing the OC search, which resulted in one of the worst coaches in Bears history?
Did he who hired the offensive coordinator?
Now, it was Eberflus, but he also oversaw it and sat in on those interviews.
Well, here's the thing. Ryan Poles has got one hire left in him, and it's the head coach. And he's got to get it right. And it's his hire. It's his. Otherwise, you got to then fire him. If he's not going to make the hire, then why have him? But he's the guy who's got to identify who that coach is going to be. And then the staff. That it's got to proceed in that way. So if you don't have that, then you're just going about it the wrong way differently.
Yeah, I think that, one of the things that feels uncomfortable to me is that I don't know that the priorities are in line. Because what is your top priority? You can say it is to win, but if you don't hire the best potential candidate,
you're not
right, because he makes you feel uncomfortable in the building, or you have a personality clash, or you don't want to pay $15 million a year to a guy, which is going rate for top guys. Then do you really want to win? And at the end of the day, like if I'm Ryan Poles, I can go to George and say, this is my plan. But if George doesn't sign off on the salary or he has input in terms of the personality mix, then
you may as well resign and try to do that for a team that has it.
And I don't know that is specifically what is going on.
But we hear that. But we hear all those things. Every one of those scenarios you just mentioned, we've all heard.
Yeah, and then you look at the history, and it seems to be a long history of convenience and not actually making decisions that lead you to the most victories. And I'm not talking about, hiring horrible people. That's not what I'm suggesting. But if you have a bit of a personality, maybe a guy just doesn't, you don't click personality wise. So what if that guy, because just for instance, you hear that, Jim's personality, there are a lot of people that wouldn't be comfortable with Jim's personality. I'm like, I don't give a rat's ass about his personality. He wanted San Diego, University of San Diego. He wanted San Francisco. He wanted Michigan. He wanted Stanford. And now he's 7-3 in Los Angeles.
You guys know how I felt about Jim Harbaugh for years. I've been saying to you both.
So they didn't
get Jim Harbaugh.
So that ship has sailed. I said ship. My hope, Mike, is that there may not be another Jim Harbaugh, but hire somebody who is the right guy for the job, and don't worry about whether or not he makes you comfy in the building.
I agree.
But I think that's the hurdle. I think we all agree.
Then if that's the hurdle, look, ultimately your owner has the ultimate accountability in whatever sport, whatever team.
Well, I think that's what we're getting at.
So it doesn't matter what it to a degree. It doesn't matter unless you give the reins over to someone who is smart enough, Theo Epstein, to get it all done and have the blessing and have an owner stay out of the way while the person does that. Then it doesn't matter what team you're talking about. Right. It doesn't. It doesn't matter what the title is. It doesn't matter what the chain of command is. That's what I'm talking about. You have to have the person who's smart enough to, in concert, and you got to get a little lucky. I mean, if you look at the Chicago teams that have won, look at the Blackhawks, what they had. I mean, they have the smartest people.
Oh, yeah, every championship is littered with good fortune. There's no question, regardless of sport.
And good people. And people who can get it done, and folks who stay out of the way.
Yeah.
I know what they don't know.
I think the luck part was the number one overall pick. I think that was a good trade and good luck all in one.
Yes. And by the way, I think while they might have done it backwards a little bit, it's okay. It's all right because you guys know I wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid for playoffs and all this stuff anyway. So right now the Bears have money and picks, and I think that Ryan Poles has shown that when it comes to scouting, when it comes to the football, the fundamental elements of scouting and signing and all that, everybody makes some mistakes.
Right.
But I think that he has shown that I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt with another offseason. So you got to go get 5 or 6 linemen through the draft and signing. You got to get an edge rusher, and that's about it. You got a lot of other stuff. If you come back and you bring everybody back with good spirit and they're all buying in, you need a new offensive line, and we've seen people redo it. I've just been talking to people like Jeff Saturday and Booger McFarland and people who have played on and against great lines and them talking about how you can improve it and how you can do it quickly. So do it, damn it. Kansas City did it. So do it. Ryan Poles played the position. So do it in this offseason. And come back with an edge rusher, another one. And you don't have holes everywhere. You got some places like any team that's not a playoff team, that's not a contender, you have to fix. So address them.
Yeah.
That's the deal. And now the big thing is, who can you get? I heard today from somebody who knows some stuff, the name Flores.
Yeah. We were talking about that earlier.
It's interesting that he's a leader of men, but can he be convinced that he has to have an offensive coach that he stays out of the way of? Don't know that. That's got to be settled before he's ever approached with a contract, if he was to be. But I've seen that. I've seen Hall of Fame coaches not touch one side of the ball. Seen it. Joe Gibbs, 3 Super Bowls, never talked to the defense, didn't even go to the meetings. He said, go talk to Richie Pettibone about that. Not even answering that question. That talk about being a secure coach and man. You hire somebody who's the best at something, and you stay out of the way for the good of the team. Can the Bears find either that combination, which is what should have been done with Lovie Smith, and it wasn't, or a new person to carry that forward?
Yeah, we talked a lot about that today, and I think Brian Dable would be someone good with him, Brian Flores. You could sell that to me. Really quick, a couple of things, and I don't want you to be quick on this because this is an important thing, is Bob Love passed away yesterday. And there are a lot of people who listen who never watched Bob Love play. And those teams that you grew up rooting for in the mid-'70s. And then he was one of the great ambassadors for the Chicago Bulls, one of the great stories of overcoming a disability and the speech impediment that he had. What did Bob Love mean to you as a Chicago sports fan?
He was a hero. Everything I learned about basketball and believe about basketball, I was embodied by Van Leer, Sloan, Love, Walker, and Boerwinkle, as taught, coached, implemented by the great Dick Motta. Everything I believe about basketball to this day. And the way they played, the way they conducted themselves, the toughness with which they played, the fight, the grit, they played over their heads in terms of talent against an opposition all the time. They couldn't beat Kareem and Milwaukee when they were in the Western Conference. They couldn't beat Wilt. When I check the records, those guys won some championships, and we just weren't good enough to beat those teams. But I love those guys. I got to meet them all, be in awe of them all, and it's just we've lost them. And it's just a real sad thing. I know how much that Michael and Scotty loved Bob Love and respected him as a player and overcoming a disability. When you're talking about stuttering and to doing something that was public, he's a hero. He's a Chicago hero.
No doubt about it. And then, how are you celebrating your birthday?
Yes, happy birthday.
I'm too old for that.
No, you're not. You should appreciate each birthday even more now.
You can appreciate and celebrate are two different verbs. Those are two different verbs.
How are you appreciating your birthday today?
I'm in Arizona. It's clear and blue, and I'm, sitting at Scottsdale National where I'm going to hit some balls before it gets dark.
Oh, nice.
And, I got up this morning and, just appreciate, being alive at this age and get out of my bad mood, get out of the funk that the last month of Bears games have left me in, and get out of that and be thankful that I'm having a great life and I get a front row seat. I loved being at Wrigley Field Saturday, final score of that game notwithstanding. Loved being there to watch my alma mater play Love being at Wrigley. Love the announcement and the presentation of the new Ryan Field in Evanston, which is being built, going up quickly, and the hole in the ground up on Central and Ashland. So there's a lot of stuff to be appreciative of. Celebrating, let's not get crazy.
Well, we
happy birthday.
appreciate you, Mike.
Yeah.
So happy birthday.